and welcome to Trading Hour on CNBC TV 18. I'm Ekta Batra and with me is Prashant Nair. Well, it's turning out to be a day where we are seeing some amount of movement, which is in fact coming in for the Nifty and the Sensex. But it's the mid-cap index which is sulking, so down around 0.3 to 0.4%. But more importantly, we have an update coming in from Jet. They are going to delay the interest payments on bonds due to the temporary liquidity constraints that they're facing. So this would be rather par for course right now in terms of the situation that Jet has been facing. Plus, additional 4 aircrafts have been grounded due to non-payment to lessors. So that would be around, I think, 50% of the entire planes that they have, which would be probably grounded, or they only have around 50 aircrafts which are functioning at this point in time. So additional news, which is negative for the stock, which is coming in. But hopefully, there would be some amount of resolution that we can look forward to for Jet. Hi, Prashant.
Ekta, hi. So, I mean, significantly off the highs, right? I mean, the Nifty, 11,444. The intraday will come up on your screen. And it's a kind of a slow start to the week. I mean, it was practically a big up move right to the word go. But from there, it's continued to come off quite a bit. I mean, I was also looking at data in terms of FII flows. And this is the data which EPFR puts out. And the data was for last week. For the first time in a long time, actually, both passive money, passive funds and active funds have seen outflows out of emerging markets. This has happened after a fairly significant and long time. This is at a time when India as a market has been getting a lot of money from FII. So what's going on? Money is going out of EMs but coming into India specifically, and the overall net number is a big negative. So, I mean, I think the explanation for that could be that it is just rotation of money out of other emerging markets into India, and India essentially playing catch up with the rest of the EM pack and making up for the underperformance we saw earlier, late last year, etc. Last year as well. So, I mean, I think this seems more rotation rather than any big fresh gush of money coming into the market here at this point in time. So that's, I mean, a quick comment as far as the latest data, etc. is concerned. We've had a decent big rally in Nifty, mid caps, small caps, bank Nifty. So it would not at least surprise me if we saw a bit of consolidation before another leg up. But we'll focus on Jet and other stories, and there are a bunch of these stories up in the air. There is Jet, there is the Mindtree transaction, which is imminent, perhaps imminent, we don't know, but we'll get you perspectives from all sides in a bit. Sudarshan Sukhani of S2 Analytics is joining us right now to take a quick look at what the screen's telling him. Sudarshan, good morning. Thank you very much. 16 points on the Nifty. What would you do?
Yeah, good morning. Well, the Nifty finally today found resistance at Friday's highs. Remember, we went all the way to Friday's high and then suddenly started retreating. That tells us that at least for the short term, there is resistance at around 10,550, 500, 550 zones, 11,550, and that resistance is likely to hold. So at current levels, there is essentially nothing to do in the Nifty bank. You take your profits. In the Nifty also, the sharp 100-point decline tells us that we should take off our long positions now. So both indices are not tradable because of the early morning decline. Individual stocks will keep on offering opportunities for the day today, given the slightly subdued mood of mid-caps and the pressure there. I have many short-selling ideas also after many days. TVS Motor is a short sell. The stock has been an underperformer and that should continue. In the same larger sector, Escorts is a short sell. Small rally in Escorts that did not find any support. There was resistance there. It's now sliding down. So there are two short selling ideas, while Bajaj Finance, that outperformer, remains a buying opportunity. But broadly, the theme is that the 100-point intraday decline tells us that we should exit our index positions.
Okay, so that point is taken. So you have two sells coming in from the auto space today, Sudarshan. But what about Maruti? That stock is down around 3% odd. Obviously, there's fundamental news attached, but nonetheless, how would you approach it? Would it be in your sell list amongst the other auto stocks as well?
And Ekta, I'm very fond of Maruti personally, so I probably have a bias in that stock. Maruti is not something I would like to short sell. Like Reliance is not something I would ever short sell. The same applies to Maruti. Maruti is coming down on fundamental news, but it's building a base. Whenever that process is complete, it will become a buying opportunity, but I would not short it.
Okay, we got a question coming in. All right, I think we'll have questions a little later. Sudarshan, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you joining in with those trades and that advice. Pharmaceutical major Lupin is coming under pressure as the company's Somerset facility in the US has been classified as official action indicated by the US drug regulator. Ekta, I mean, what does this mean, OAI, and specifically in the context of Lupin, what would it mean?
Well, actually, it's definitely negative news coming in for Lupin, simply because this is the second facility within the span of a week which is classified as OAI, or official action indicated. Now, remember that OAI basically means that there is a higher probability of a warning letter coming in on the facility that we're talking about. So in this case, it is the Somerset facility which was inspected in December of 2018, and this particular facility is expected to be around 16 to 19% of the total US sales and 5 to 7% of the overall sales, and 25% of their new drugs are waiting approval from this particular facility. But apart from all of that, what the street is really worried about is that whether or not there is a company-wide risk that Lupin is facing when it comes to the US FDA. Now, why do I say that? Is because, like I mentioned earlier, the Mandideep facility received an OAI status just last week, and they already have their Goa as well as their Pithampur Unit 2 facilities both under warning letters since November of 2017. So obviously, when there are multiple plants which are facing regulatory problems or regulatory issues, then the US FDA tends to probably take a larger bird's eye view on the company when it comes to these kind of problems. But nonetheless, the other side could be that it could just be a plant-specific problem, and maybe the financial impact could be just limited. But let's see. Time will tell what the US FDA does.
Okay, thanks very much, Ekta. Stock's down about 4% or so. Mindtree is the other one to watch out for. Now, this is a developing story and interesting from so many angles and perspectives. We understand that the L&T board is meeting today to discuss the acquisition, while Mindtree promoters have written a letter to the L&T board. Mugdha is joining in with the details, the latest details, that is, because, as I said, this is a fast-moving story. Mugdha.
Yes, as we reported last week, L&T is set to announce its purchase of VG Siddhartha's stake in Mindtree following the board meeting today. And, L&T will acquire the entire 20.4% stake that Siddhartha and his CCD entities hold in Mindtree at rupees 981 per share. And also, as we reported last week, L&T will also go for an open offer to take its stake up to 51%. Now, as you said, what is coming in is that the promoters, K.K. Natarajan and Rostov Ravanan, have written a very scathing letter to the L&T board, about this hostile takeover, in which they've said that employees and even investors and customers have expressed concern that they do not want to be part of an organization that is culturally different from Mindtree. And, they've said in the letter that following several discussions in Jan and Feb, they had asked L&T to cease from pursuing Mindtree as a target. And, remember yesterday, Subrata Bagchi, another Mindtree co-founder, had tweeted saying that he would come back to the company because he was completely against this hostile takeover. And this comes just 2 days before Mindtree is set to have its own board meeting for a share buyback, which is seen, as a way to stall this takeover by L&T. But as we reported, L&T is set to announce this takeover today.
Okay, all right, Mugdha. We'll wait by for any sort of development on that front. Thanks very much for joining in, taking us through that update. But Mindtree, like Mugdha mentioned, will probably consider a buyback on Wednesday. But what are the buyback rules and how will this work? Nisha's here to take us through that. Nisha.
It's takeover battle at its best. We haven't seen something like this in a very long time. So hostile takeover attempt to buy L&T, and that was tried to be defended by the Mindtree promoters by coming up with a buyback, which is set to be announced on Wednesday. But preempting that buyback, now L&T is trying to foil their plans by coming out with an announcement today. What it does is, any sort of public announcement with respect to like an open offer which L&T will be making will really hinder any capital structure change thereafter unless a 75% shareholder nod is taken. That makes Mindtree's buyback extremely difficult. Now, the normal rule suggests that up to 10% any promoter can ask for a buyback through a simple board resolution. 10 to 25% requires a 51% ordinary shareholder approval. But with the public announcement which L&T will be making with respect to this transaction, it makes it more stringent, and 75% of the shareholders will have to vote in favor through a special resolution, which makes buyback attempt by Mindtree promoters extremely difficult at this point, because you look at the numbers, 20% stake is already with VG Siddhartha and CCD, which are tying up with L&T on this transaction. So yes, a counter-attack coming in by L&T, but we can expect more attacks coming in from Mindtree promoters as well, so watch out for that.
Nisha, thank you very much for that. Ekta, on this particular story, the simple question which Nisha is trying to ask is, what can Mindtree founders really do to foil an attempt by L&T, right? And the fact is, I mean, there isn't very much that they can do. They own 13% stake, a little over 13% stake. They can do, as Nisha said, with a board resolution, launch a buyback for 10% of the company's equity. If they do it, with the acceptance ratio calculations, they'll end up with 1.5%, 2% or something. That takes it to about 14-15%. I mean, it doesn't change anything at all, because L&T apparently has VG Siddhartha's 20.4%. There is stock that they already own they've already sort of bought about 2%, 2.5% via the creeping route, and then they need 2 or 3% from one of the other investors to get to 25%, which automatically triggers an offer for another 26% So, so it's kind of tough, and shareholding is concentrated in Mindtree. So there are large blocks. So if one guy goes with somebody, I mean, there's very little the other guy can do to sort of, unless, of course, the price, of course, at the end of the day will determine everything. And that's the reason why L&T clearly seems to have outbid KKR, etc., and come out on top. So we'll see where this goes. But it's extremely interesting.
Yes, absolutely, Prashant. But I just want to shift focus on the dollar rupee as well, because there's been a sharp 0.5% appreciation today for the dollar rupee. Just to put it into perspective, on Friday's closing, the dollar rupee, or the rupee, in fact, stood at 69.09 against the dollar. And today you can see that there's been a further appreciation from the time we started trade. So 68.7573 currently for the dollar rupee. So good going at this point in time. We'll do one thing. We'll take a break, but we'll have Manisha in. So we'll probably try and get her to talk a little bit of about the rupee. Plus, we'll be discussing commodities as well. Stay tuned.